Good morning and welcome to the Transitions Academy webinar series, What an Effective Career Navigator Does. We're very happy that you're joining us today. This, as all of the Transitions Academy, is brought to you in partnership with ICSPS and SIPDC. That's the Southern Illinois Professional Development Center and the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support. This morning, I'm Sarah Goldammer from SIPDC. Also with me is my boss and friend, Bevan Gibson, our director, Miley Signorotti, our great support staff. So we'll all be here supporting our presenters, Meg Jazak and Teresa Guia. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them on the next slide. I do want to do a little bit of housekeeping as we start. First of all, you are in listen-only mode. You can ask questions, put those in the question or the chat box. The support staff of Bevan, Miley, and me will monitor that, and if it's a clarification question, we'll try and get the presenters to clarify that. Otherwise, we'll probably wait until the end of the time they're talking to present that question to them. This session will also be recorded and be placed on the ICAPS website if you want to go back and look at it again, or if you want to share with colleagues. So that is coming up for you as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead. And as I mentioned, we have two great presenters today. They have a wealth of experience as in career navigating, and they each have different titles. So I'm going to let them actually introduce themselves. But Teresa Guia from Malcolm X College is here with us today, and Meg Jazak from Moraine Valley Community College. So we thank both of their colleges for allowing them the time to share their expertise and some of their resources. Speaking of resources, this PowerPoint is available under the handouts. You can print it out if you would like to, if that is helpful for you. There's also a couple of other handouts available. We also want to thank ICCB, the Illinois Community College Board, for supporting all of this great work, for the Transitions Academy, for what we do in professional development, and of course, what all the work that you do in your program serving our adult education students. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Teresa.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody is doing great this Thursday morning and keeping warm. Let me introduce myself. My name is Teresa Guia, and I've been in adult education for about 7 years now. Currently, I am the transition specialist at Malcolm X, one of the city colleges of Chicago. Prior to, I was a career pathway advisor at Prairie State College. Through my trajectory, I have found some true and tried methods when it comes to recruitment, retention, tracking, supporting, and exiting our students through the adult education program with IET, bridge, or just good old transitions. Sarah, if you could please go to the next slide. I would like to start briefly and talk about the essential components of a career pathway navigator. So the reason why I designed this into levels is because you need to set the groundwork with each level so that it could all come together. So beginning with understanding your target market, that is going to be key. When it comes to developing your IET and bridge or ICAPS programs, because long are the days of if you build it, they will come. If you're not understanding the target market that you're serving, you're not going to be able to provide the proper programming that you need.
Hey, so Teresa. Yes? Teresa, so sorry to interrupt you, but we're having some people say that they are not able to hear some of the volume. So, I mean, could you turn up your volume just a little bit more?
Sure, no problem. Give me 1 second. Okay,
we want to make sure that everybody hears your great information.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Okay, let me know if this works. Is this testing 1, 2? Is that better?
Can you turn it up just a little bit more? Can you turn it up the whole way?
I think.
Okay, a couple of other people.
That is the highest that it could go. Can you hear me? Okay.
So let me know. All the participants turn your volume up as high as you can. Okay, go ahead, Teresa.
Okay, so like I said, let's begin with understanding your target market. Remember that I'm saying that target market is going to be key at the time you start to form your career pathways and programming. It is very important. I could give you an example. For example, when I was at Prairie State College, we had a large population of students who were undocumented, but great students to say the least. And, you know, we still had the pressure of ICCB and our funders to create these bridge and ICAP programs and IETs. So we had to put our thinking caps on and really think how we could keep both sides of the spectrum happy, correct? So with those undocumented students, we were thinking about what are some accessible career choices that these students could achieve and be sustained after receiving their certification. So two that came to mind was HVAC and automotive. HVAC is heating, ventilation, air conditioning certificates, and then the automotive. Why? Because those were choices that students could become entrepreneurs, open up their own business, and not necessarily need a social security number to work in these industries and live on a sustainable wage. Furthermore, when you understand your population, you understand the barriers, which I will get into later on in this presentation. The next level is the wraparound services. Students will look to you when it comes to those wraparound services, that link, because you're going to be the one building that relationship with them. So they're going to look to you to point them to that right direction. This is one, the importance of networking and attending APC meetings, knowing your CBOs, getting familiar with one-stop shops, and making those connections is going to help you and your student. One, because you will be able to help the student by being their link to a great resource and knowing that those resources are going to be able to help that student. Two, because it's going to help you serve as a referral program for you. Because now that you know that you can help the students with the educational and career training portion, those outside agencies who might help with housing, food, transportation, might know that those students might need your services. So it creates a great referral program between CBOs and your organization itself. So then level 3, knowledge with the academic framework. Being knowledgeable with the academic framework is what will make you an effective career pathway navigator. Even if you're not at a college, is understanding really how that college system works, both on the credit side, the non-credit side, the vocational and training certificates is going to be key. It's just taking a step back, like remembering when you were in college and remembering what prerequisite classes were for you to take certain classes and really remembering the sequence of things. And a lot of that has changed, but you need to do that work so that you could actually set out these pathways for those students and they could see an actual pathway to whatever certification that they are trying to complete. I just want to take a quick moment to make sure that the volume is fine and everybody could hear me.
Yes, Teresa, thank you.
Okay, great. So like I was saying, so being familiar with both sides of the house. This is going to be key when you're creating the Onramps. You got to know when the certifications will continue to be stackable and then turn into a degree. Those are going to be the best pathways to put your student on, because like I tell a lot of our younger students that they want to do a lot of hands-on work, but eventually age will hit us up where you're not going to want to do hands-on work, where you're going to want to be the leader and manage other people. So you could get on that on-ramp and complete that degree so that you can manage or you can be the leader of a company now that you've done all that groundwork. The next level would be braided funding. Braided funding is going to be another essential part of this programming. When I was at Prairie State College, I had the benefit of working in a one-stop shop where the student did not have to leave the building to apply, complete, and get assistance from WIOA. However, not all students will be able to qualify for WIOA. So that's when talking to CBOs such as OAI, which is Opportunity Advancement and Innovation, or the Calumet Area Industrial Commission, or talking to your financial aid office and talk about the ability to benefit. Or maybe some students will be able to self-pay. But braided funding is when it's going to help you navigate through all those things to achieve your goal. So braided funding is going to be really thinking about what your organization can, and this is also working with administration, right? So seeing what they can provide for your students. Like for example, here at City College of Chicago, we have an awesome bridge program that offers tuition-free classes for their first certification class, which is awesome. However, there is outside costs that come with those certifications. So now it's really talking to other community-based organizations that might be able to help with transportation, or maybe they could help with the medical aspect, maybe providing a free flu shot for the students, or a CPR card, or a OSHA safety certification. So these are where the braided funding comes in to make that student successful. The last one that's going to bring all these levels together is student tracking. This is going to be key because we do not have a unified system where we could track our students once they leave from our academic, or what I would say exit out of DAISY, which is easier. So Excel is going to be your best friend. And I would say if you are at a college, go ahead and take that free Excel class. If not, find a way to take one. I know that there's great Excel classes on LinkedIn. So definitely look out for resources for you, because you're going to figure out that keeping track of students is going to make your life easier when it comes to reporting. So figure out what works for you. And then also, make sure that you are effective on how you communicate with students, because that's also going to help you with tracking students. In the 21st century, we have a lot of students who would prefer a text message. Email, not so much, maybe some, but a text message goes a long way. And we could all here admit that when we've had to call 50 or plus students, our enthusiasm is not on level 10 like it would be with the first 10 students that you call, because by the 50th student you're like, yeah, we have this program, please come, we'll talk to you later. You get tired of selling your services. So a quick text message will help you connect with those students. So a great text messaging tool that I use is called Google Number. So you actually get a Google phone number, and you are able to call, text, and everything. And what's great about it is that if a student calls me, they have to say their name before they call, before the call gets connected. So say that I know that it's a student who is, whose issue could probably wait till a Monday, I would, probably not have to pick that up. But if I know it's a student who has an emergency that at that moment, you could pick that up. And this is something that you would choose to do on your own. This is nothing that is expected to do by my administration. But this is something that keeps me sane, because it's easier to text a student and say, hey, why weren't you in class? And then they could text me back. Or students could text you like, hey, my car broke down. Can you please let my instructor know? This is where communication is going to bring that success to the student. Another thing for student tracking are referral forms. Referral forms, I know we could get tired and inundated with forms after forms after forms, but referral forms will save your life, because you could say, I thought I sent John to WIOA, but I haven't heard back. And when you call them, like, oh no, you sent me to this other community-based organization. And then you're like, oh wait, that's what I did. and you get confused. So having a referral form will also help you keep track of what it is that you're doing and who you are talking to, and better understanding of where your student might be at that point in time. Sarah, could we please go to the next slide?
Absolutely, Teresa. And a lot of participants are writing in that they also use, you said it was Google Voice. Is that, to clarify, is that right?
Yes, I'm sorry, I called Google Voice. Yeah.
Google Voice. So you're getting a lot of applause for Google Voice. A lot of people are saying, yay, Teresa, we use that too. So thanks for sharing that resource, and let me move you on.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let me real quick about Google Voice. You can stay on this slide. The Google Voice, what's fun about it is that you could turn it off. You don't have to continue to receive text messages or alerts or anything of that nature. And sometimes work-life balance is definitely key. However, when maybe you're sitting on a train, it's easier to contact students that way. It's just an awesome tool, and I highly recommend it. Well, anyways, moving on.
Hey, Teresa, I just had one other question. Since you haven't totally moved on yet, can I go and read this to you?
Sure.
Just wondering, what is advisable to help a student who's taking free ESL classes that require attendance 2 days a week? Their job needs to be a priority that creates a conflict and stress for the school, teacher, classmates, and definitely the student. What's a suggestion for handling this for teachers where there's that conflict? Any thoughts?
Okay, so the question is, the student needs to come to class 2 times a week, but the instructor.
But then there's a work conflict, and you know, I think that's common in either ESL or ABEAC, that there's class and job conflicts. Do you have any kind of general, because we could probably spend the entire day talking about this, but any general thoughts, or do you want to think about that a bit, go on and come back to that later?
I could answer that real quick. I feel like that goes back. I could answer that. That's a 2-part answer. The first part is really going back to understanding your target market. Are you offering those classes at times those students will be more likely to come to class? So if you're, for example, if you're only offering morning classes and they work in the mornings, they're gonna wanna need evening class or a Saturday class. I know that's a very generic answer, but that's one thing that I know some organizations and community-based organizations don't have that open availability for students as far as scheduling. And then 2, I would reach out to the employer, or maybe write a letter of recommendation for that student and say how much more effective this student will be if their English skill levels are raised to the next level, and how much more of a productive employee he will be able to be, or she will be able to be in the workforce now, understanding and knowing the language.
Thanks, Teresa.
So is that the only, that was the only, yeah. No problem.
Very helpful.
Okay, so moving on, thank you. Moving on to the partnerships. So going back to the level that I was talking about as far as wraparound services, this is going to include your internal partners. So that whether it be academic advising, financial aid, the registrar's office, the business office, these are going to be your next best friend for sure. The career and technical education, because we have to work hand in hand with them. Adult education can't work without them, and they can't work without adult education. So that's going to be key. The testing center, as well as continuing education. Some universities or colleges have different structure as far as continuing ed or corporate continuing ed. So I wanted to list it on there. And actually, I forgot to mention other internal partnerships could be like TRIO or other student organizations that help those students. One thing that I love about Malcolm X is that we treat our student, all the benefits that our credit students receive, so do our adult education students. And what makes that so much better and easygoing is that we are able to give that student a holistic approach in offering them all those services that are open to the college credit students. For example, tutoring, counseling, the food pantry, and things of that nature. When I say you would think that these offices are all working with one another, And in a way, yes, we are, because, our college doors are still open. However, we do have to address the white elephant in the room and think about everybody working in silos. When everybody's working in silos, I feel like you're not going to get the results that you are wanting. So I know we live in the 21st century. I know an email goes a long way. However, I feel like you still need to bring in that human element touch, and go ahead and write that email to the academic advisor and say, hey, I have some questions in the sequence of these classes. Do you mind sitting down with me and talking about it? I feel like once you add that human interaction, they know who they're helping, and then you could advocate more so for your students. So that's going to be very, very important, because at times I feel like on a macro level, administrators, with all due respect, it stays up there and it's easy to say, oh yeah, the transition specialist will just register them. They'll help them with the financial aid and this and that. However, on a micro level, there might be 100 steps to the one step that you said that person will take. So that is very important. Sarah, is there a question, or I don't know, I got something popped up on my screen.
No, I was just giving you a time update. But
okay, cool. Yeah. All right. The next ones, so external partnerships that are very key are the one-stop centers for sure. Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act providers. Make sure that you understand the difference between the youth WIOA and the, I don't want to say regular WIOA, but just WIOA, and all the great benefits. I feel like a lot of people might be afraid to work with WIOA partners because of all the hoops or barriers. I don't want to say barriers, but the hoops that it feels like students have to jump through. But I feel like, again, when you make those partnerships and you create that camaraderie to want to see the students succeed, you are able to see, like, okay, this is a duplicated service. We could cut that out so the student does not have to do this twice, and things like that. So workforce, the WIOA is not going anywhere, so I highly suggest that you're more welcoming to that. Also, get to know your community-based organizations. Those are going to be the ones that are going to be able to help you work with one another, especially here. Well, what I've noticed, there's a lot of community-based organizations in Chicago who offer like the beginners ESL into intermediate, where they're tapped out and they're like, after this, I don't know how to tell what to do or tell my student where to go. A perfect example was this past semester, I was able to work with the Chinese Mutual Association as well as the Putak Center. Shout out to them. They were exiting some of their students, and some of these students have been the best students in our Bridge and IET programs, because they've got the foundations already and they came in at the higher level and were able to become successful. The last one would be employers, making sure that not only you are getting these students the certificates that they need to be employable, but also have that partnership with employers so that they can get hired once they complete that certification. Sarah, if you could please go to the next slide. Thanks. So keys to coordination for a career navigator. These are going to be essential. One, organization. You have to organize student files, organize yourself, as well as organize meetings with the proper key holders to make these IET and bridge programming successful. Communication is key. Not only you communicating what your needs are, but also being understanding and listening to the needs of students, the needs of your colleagues, to make their work life a lot simpler from a crazy, I want to say, because some of like academic advisors, they're already working with some students as far as, coming from the public. And then you have another student, a set of students coming from adult ed, and it could be a lot of pressure, and it could be a lot for one person. So when you're communicating with them and how you can help them and better assist them is going to make that job and transition a smoother process. Innovation is going to be key, because you have to learn how to be flexible when you need to be flexible and come up with some new ideas. Like, don't recreate the wheel, right? But just add your little touch to it so that it could work for you. Also, being understanding to the student needs and what their wants are, and being understanding that some students might not want to do the bridge that you offer. And if that's the case, you are make sure that you're helpful as far as transitioning them out of adult education into other programming. And foresight is going to be key as well, because if you could anticipate some of the hiccups because you've done this before, and it would be wise to bring that up to administration so that they could plan for those hiccups throughout the presentation or throughout the process of bridge and IETs. Sarah, if you could go to the next one, please. Student services, these are going to be barriers as well as something to think about when planning your IETs and bridge. Transportation sometimes is difficult for students. Counseling, a lot of our students have gone through really traumatic situations, and they might need more help than what you could provide. And it's okay to say to a student, you know what, I cannot help you with that, but I know somebody that can. And so that's going back to having those relationships with CBOs. Childcare is important. Again, employment. Some students are struggling with food or housing assistance. Make sure that you are having your proper person help with that, because there are resources for students out there. It's just that sometimes they're not as accessible for students to find. So helping them with that. And tutoring is going to also be key. Sarah, if you could please go to the next slide. When it comes to instructor support, it is going to be very important that in the classroom, you come in and have that relationship. Like, you got these students in this classroom. Now it's time to, once they are in the classroom, let that teacher or instructor have that relationship with the student. However, come in and do that supportive piece and really giving them an overview of the program and what are the things that are going to be expected in the next 8, 16 weeks, however long your program is. You're going to be doing that motivational support of not giving up, and making sure that there's workflow, that everything is going smoothly, as far as making sure the instructor has the supplies, has the computer lab, has the books, making sure that that instructor is well supported. Outside of the classroom, you could help that instructor with student support. If a student just stops coming to class, maybe they're not vibing with the instructor, maybe they don't know how to communicate with the instructor, they might be able to communicate with you better, and you could come back to the instructor and facilitate a meeting or facilitate just a conversation so that it can still flow. Another thing is facilitating interdisciplinary feedback and collaboration. This is going to be key because you, as the transition specialist or the career pathway navigator, are in all these meetings. So you get to hear all the adult ed stuff, the CTE stuff, but the instructors are not in that until the end, mostly, of the planning. So you're kind of like the buffer between the two, and understanding and helping them understand that adult instruction is still there and to support and help these students, and B, CTE is still going to do their show and, you know, help these students get their certification that they need. And the adult ed instructor is just there for support, not to teach the class, not to do anything but support those students, as well as follow-ups with anything that might be lingering. With that said, I know my time has come to an end. I could share my contact information for you all if you all have other questions or other concerns that maybe I could be a help of, but I believe we're passing it on to Meg. Sarah?
Yes, it is time to pass the baton. Teresa, thank you so much for sharing all that. What we're going to do is, because there's a couple of questions, we're going to move on to Meg. And then at the end, we'll pose the questions to both of our career navigators and have some time for that. If we run out of time in this hour, hopefully they'll be willing to stay a little bit longer and answer those questions. So at this point, let's go ahead and turn it over to Meg Jazak.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for sharing so much helpful information, Teresa. Good morning. My name is Meg Jazak, and I'm the Manager of Transition and ESL in the Learning Enrichment and College Readiness Department at Moraine Valley Community College. I have been working in adult education for about 10 years, and prior to adult ed, I taught 5th grade. A few of my duties as manager of transition and ESL include hiring, supervising, observing, evaluating 20 to 30 ESL instructors, facilitating student orientations each semester, overseeing the ESL curriculum, planning and facilitating instructor in-services, developing ICAPS and transition courses, and collaborating with the transition specialist and education specialist on a daily basis. Moraine Valley has 3 campuses. This is the main campus at Palos Hills. All of our campuses are beautiful. If you have not had a chance to visit, please stop by for a tour. I'd be happy to give you one. This is the Education Center in Blue Island. And finally, this is our 3rd campus, the Southwest Education Center in Tinley Park. Moraine Valley Community College's adult education has been offered for nearly 30 years. Our program consists of ESL and HSE classes, ESL computer classes, a hybrid ESL class, citizenship classes, transition classes such as Bridge to Healthcare, Critical Thinking, BNAT. We have morning, evening, afternoon classes during the week, and Saturday classes on the main campus. We also have a PEP, a Parents as Educational Partners program at Northeast Elementary School in Evergreen Park. We serve approximately 1,200 to 1,400 students annually. Our ESL students come from over 45 different countries. So here's our agenda for today. I'm going to also speak about some internal and external partnerships, keys to coordination for Career Navigator, the interaction I have with ICAPS students, how I give instructor support, and I do have some resources to share. And then Sarah mentioned we will have questions at the end. I decided to complete the Career Navigator Professional Pathway to gain materials and knowledge to pass along to students, instructors, and my colleagues. So, we have numerous internal partnerships at Moraine. I will be focusing on our caregiver partnership and BNAT ICAPS partnership this morning. We partnered with a colleague who's the Senior Program Manager in Corporate Community and Continuing Education at Moraine to run 2 caregiver cohorts in the fall semester for our ESL and HSE students. In the first cohort, we had 12 students complete the caregiver course and 10 completed it in the second cohort. It was exciting to be able to offer this opportunity to our students. The students earned a caregiver certificate after completing the course, which was held on 2 Saturdays for a total of 16 hours. The caregiver program is very beneficial to our students. They have exposure to healthcare, and it's a short program that they can complete quickly. Here's a picture of some of our caregivers at the celebration in which we awarded their certificates. We will be continuing the caregiver course in the spring. We are also partnering with the nursing and BNAT administrators and instructors to run a true ICAPS program, including co-teaching along with the supplemental instruction, and we're actually submitting the proposal to the state soon. Many of our Bridge to Healthcare students transition into BNAT. I will be speaking about that transition process in a bit. In regards to external partnerships, I was asked to mentor 2 career navigators from 2 other community colleges. We speak on the phone or we email usually once or twice a month. We discuss job duties, tracking of students, transition classes, and more. I enjoy the mentorships very much. Being a mentor gives me the opportunity to reflect on my own job, and I really like to develop professional relationships. After each conversation or email, I take notes on the monthly report form. I was really happy to meet both of my mentees in person too. The Career Navigator mentorship process concludes after 6 months, and then I will complete and submit another form. Here is the monthly report form, which helps to keep track of what has been discussed, resources shared, successes and concerns, plus any questions that may need to be looked into further and what the next step will be. Here are some very kind words from one of my mentees, Sydney Boyd. I'm so happy that this has been beneficial for Sydney. I've really also gained a lot from working with Sydney. I try to be a consultant, a counselor, a cheerleader for all of my mentees. January is National Mentorship Month, so if you're lucky enough to have a mentor or a mentee, just try to be proactive about nurturing the relationship. Some of the keys to coordination for a career navigator, in my opinion, include organization. I use a calendar to keep track of appointments and meetings. I love using Outlook. Attention to detail is very important. We track students and we organize materials to distribute to students and instructors. It is essential to use an efficient tracking procedure of students. I will be talking about our BNAT tracking form in a little bit. Having excellent listening skills is also crucial. This is necessary when talking with students and instructors. And open communication, again, imperative with students and instructors. Feedback is also essential. I give suggestions and resources when needed. In regard to our BNAT ICAPS students, I am very fortunate to work with our wonderful transition specialist and fabulous education specialist. We promote the BNAT scholarship to our advanced level ESL and HSE students and encourage them to submit an application. The students are also asked to provide references and write an essay. I will be reviewing this soon. The final step is participating in an interview with myself, the assistant dean, the transition specialist, and the education specialist. The students are so thrilled to be selected for our BNAT scholarship, and they work super hard in the class. In the fall, we had 5 students complete the BNAT course, and in the upcoming spring semester, we have 10 that have earned the scholarship, and we will begin the BNAT course. The BNAT students receive supplemental instruction from the ed specialist, and next semester, she will also be co-teaching in the class with the BNAT instructor. We are super excited about this continuing partnership. Here is the BNAT scholarship application that I just mentioned. It consists of 5 pages. The first page is the student's biographical information, their educational history, what campus they're currently attending, their current ESL level, or if they're an HSE student. The second page includes the student's employment history and list of responsibilities if chosen for the scholarship. For example, it says, if selected for this scholarship, I promise that I will be able to attend class on time during all class meetings. I will make all necessary arrangements for childcare and other obligations so that I will be able to attend class. Another is, I will attend required supplemental sessions after class with an ed specialist. These are just a couple out of the list, plus the student's sign and date at the bottom. The third page of the scholarship is the student's essay, explaining why they should be selected for this scholarship. They can print or type the essay, and they can add additional pages if needed. I really love to read the students' essays. They're super heartfelt and very touching. The fourth page of the application is the reference form. We want to make sure that the students have support outside of class. So they choose an important adult. It could be their spouse, their partner, their friend, family member. Someone in their life needs to complete the form as well as sign it. Family and friend support is essential as our students are progressing through the program. The final part of the application is a requirement checklist, which helps the student to see what, if anything, they might be missing. Making sure all requirements are met is a vital part of the process. The checklist helps to make the process go smoothly for the students and us. Once the entire application and placement testing is complete, Then we ask the student to come in for an interview. We've had excellent results from using this system. In the spring semester, there are 10 BNAT students who are receiving the scholarship and will begin the BNAT class. In the Keys to Coordination section, I spoke about having an efficient tracking system for students. Here is an example of the BNAT tracking form that our education specialist uses. We took out the real names of the students. As you can see, we track the student's name, their age, their country of origin, the CASAS test score, if applicable. ESL students will have this, HSC students may not. The prep class grade, for us, that's the grade the student earns in the Bridge to Healthcare class. We also have the Accuplacer score, which is the college placement test. And the student's Accuplacer score must be over 82 in order to be placed in the BNAT class. Next is the BNAT class final grade, and after that we mark if the student passes or fails the state test. Next is the funding source, which for us is the scholarship through our foundation, and then there is a notes section. For example, Jean West failed the state exam, so we noted that she was going to retake it on August 20th. And then we added another note that she passed the exam on August 20th. And finally, what is the student doing after the completion of BNAT? As you can see, Jane Doe is pursuing speech pathology prerequisites. Thomas Smith is finishing IEL, which is intensive English language classes, and is working as a CNA. That's just a little example from there. We find this form to be very helpful.
Thanks, Meg. Hey, one quick question for you.
Sure.
Does the scholarship cover the total cost of the BNAT program, and are there any out-of-pocket fees for the student?
No, yes, it does cover everything, like their materials, their books, their scrubs, their stethoscope. It covers everything. We're very fortunate.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit now about instructor support, which is actually one of my favorite parts of my job. I email and I speak with instructors daily. We've had many dialogues about how they're already infusing transition-related topics into their lessons. I share new ideas and materials with the instructors through email, as well as during our in-services each semester. I also am fortunate to work with so many experienced and talented instructors who share their knowledge and expertise during presentations at conferences, workshops, and in-services. I enjoy planning and facilitating instructor in-services with my team every semester. We're actually having one tomorrow morning. We provide the instructors with important information and ideas for lessons that they can use right away in their next class. Much of this we bring back from conferences, and we love to share it. There is a ton of information within the Career Navigator modules that can also be shared and will be very beneficial to your instructors. These are a couple pictures of an in-service in which the instructors are working with manipulatives in planning lessons for their ESL and HSE classes. So, speaking about the Career Navigator resources, here is a great one. In our Adult Learners Crew, which is a group for our HSE and ESL students, we discussed and facilitated a lesson on SMART goals. We used other materials from the module Resume Essentials and also reviewed the employment interviewing techniques. We are going to continue to use all of these materials and more from the modules with our crew next semester. The next handout continues to discuss SMART goals. Again, this is from the Career Navigator Pathway module. And I found many resources on these modules that have been great for our Adult Learners Crew. And this next one is the last handout, also from the same module for SMART goals. And that's a photo of our Adult Learners Crew in action. So, just a quick recap of what we covered this morning. Try to continue to put time and effort into building internal and external partnerships. work on the keys to coordination for a Career Navigator, carry on your interaction with ICAPS students, continue building relationships with instructors and support them daily, try to sign up for the Career Navigator Pathway and use the multitude of resources contained in the modules. I would like to thank my Dean, Michael Morshes, my Assistant Dean, Dr. Nina Shoman-Dejani, as well as the specialists, the coordinators, and my entire adult ed staff. I'd also like to thank Bevan Gibson and Sarah Goldhammer for their help and guidance with this webinar. I'm really very fortunate to work with so many supportive and wonderful people, and I hope you found this webinar to be helpful. I have my contact information, I think, on the last slide. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thanks so much for your time today, and I hope you have a great day. And if you have any questions, I'm here.
Thanks, Meg. We really appreciate it. And we do have a few questions that we want to circle back and take a look at. So let me. And I think one of them, actually, we're going to circle back to Teresa. Someone asked Teresa to talk a little bit more about their partnership with their one-stop center.
Okay, so the partnership, I could talk about the two partnerships that we have. So let me talk about the current partnership that we have here at City Colleges of Chicago. Malcolm X is located on the near west side. We've been working with the near west side American Job Center as well as the west side American Job Center, KAR. We don't have necessarily a one-stop shop here at the college. However, we have great partnerships with them where they are able to come on campus and present to them what WIOA is, what the benefits are. And the great thing about having that partnership is that I am able to talk to those students and let them know that, hey, you know what, we're gonna have WIOA come in and present next week. Make sure that you bring your social security card, your birth certificate, driver's license, all the requirements that WIOA is going to need so that we can get that ball rolling when it comes to WIOA vouchers and them helping us pay for some of the student certification. And what's awesome about WIOA is that once you understand how to navigate through WIOA, WIOA could pay up to $8,000 of a student's education, which is awesome, along with supportive services. Another thing, going back to Prairie State, what was awesome about that was with the help of leadership, we were able to establish a referral process where we were able to cut out some of the repetitive tasks that a student would have to go through. Instead of they would just come in, meet with the transition specialist, I would fill out the referral form, they would walk down the hallway, sit for an orientation, meet with, I believe her name is Mary, I don't know if she's still there, but she was the person that would be the intake person, and then from there they would go on with the job coach and things of that nature, go through that WIOA process, come back and say, Miss Teresa, I have decided that I would like to go to Prairie State College for whatever certification, and then I would go ahead and help them do the whole registration process, which is the same thing here at Malcolm X. It's just that we don't have that one stop here, but both of those American Job Centers are easily accessible to the students via public transportation, as well as bringing them on campus.
Thank you, Teresa. And you said earlier, Teresa, that WIOA is here to stay, and I concur. We're all shaking our heads, yes. So building those partnerships is just so important. I do want to also mention, Stacy Lomax said that she's currently working on building a resource list where students can get scholarships and help pay for childcare, as that's a very common barrier for her adult ed students. So she's saying that she is willing to share her resources of what she's found, and she would love to build on that if there's other people that have resources for specifically childcare. So I want to dovetail on what Stacey said. Hopefully everybody knows about the ICAPS website and the menu of resources that is there. We'll make that link available to you as well. It just so that you know, if you don't know, you should go visit that, because all of the archived webinars, including this one today, are there for you to take a look at. There's also resources specifically for career navigators. There's also one for administrators and one for teachers. But for instance, on your handouts, in addition to this PowerPoint, are also some resources that Meg shared, her application process and her tracking form. That menu of resources has a wealth of information there. And Stacy, I would like to encourage you to reach out and share with me, Sarah Goldammer, I'll put my contact up for you as well, anything that you have, because then that would be a good place to warehouse your information, as well as other people can share that with us. And I don't know, do our presenters, we have one more question, and keep the questions coming if you have more. We have a few more minutes. But do either our presenters have anything to share to what Stacy says about childcare before we move on? If you don't, that's okay, but.
I'm not sure where in the state of Illinois Stacy is, but there's the Action for Children. There's a lot of community-based organizations and even private daycares that accept that. So the student could go online and apply for that service. I believe even the highest salary, and it will still help you qualify for it, it's like in the 40s. So that is very accessible to the students as far as childcare.
We do have childcare on our campus, but it is not free.
Okay, thanks to both of you. And just in case you haven't picked up on voices yet, the first answer was Teresa's, the second one was Meg. Okay, so we have one more question. Like I said, it's not too late if you want to pose another question. But Joan says, we encourage students and offer many choices of sites and times. However, the requirements for funding and attendance requirements are clear. The students' needs are first for the teachers, so it's difficult to be idealistically oriented. That would mean ignoring to some degree the rigid demands. Empathy for students does lead to being less rigid and working with students to enable them to continue in the face of many of their challenges. And then here's our question. What can a teacher do and still be in accord with the parameters of expectations for the students? I think that kind of harkens back to, I know you talked a little bit, Teresa, earlier about the program being responsive to students' needs and when they schedule and that type of thing. Does anybody have any additional ideas for teachers that they can have both of those worlds coexist, the expectations of the requirements and then the reality of our students' lives?
Yeah, we kind of try to work with, if the teachers say that a certain student has an issue or, something, it's kind of almost done on an individual basis, I would say. With us, they can come, they can talk to me in the office, they can talk to our transition specialist, our educational specialist, and then if we are not able to help the student, then we're fortunate to have on campus counseling, advising, all of the internal partnerships that Teresa also mentioned. So I think that's how we kind of handle it. I don't know if that totally answered Joan's question or not.
And I think it'll also be important to establish, if you are the instructor, try to establish that relationship with the support staff, because support staff might have some insight on that student. And I think collectively you could come up with a solution to better assist that student.
All right, thank you to both of you. And I would just encourage anybody else that has creative ideas, innovative ideas, because obviously that's an ongoing challenge for all of us. Again, I am happy to be the resource person. If my contact information is now in the chat box, Miley put that up for us. Thank you so much. And I think she's also putting up our ICAPS website link if anybody wants that. So again, reach out to me. I'll be glad to share that. That ICAPS website is always evolving, and it's there for you. So if there's something that you don't see there that you need, reach out to me and let me know that as well. And then we also, several people are saying thanks so much. Kudos to both of you women for sharing your ideas and knowledge with us. And they appreciate listening to both of you. So Teresa and Meg, thank you so much. And then Meg, one other question for you. How did you get the money for your BNAT scholarship?
Well, that was the application process that I talked about, that 5-page application. All of the students have to go through that, and then we work with our foundation, and we've just been very fortunate to have the scholarships available for our students, and it's made a world of difference. I don't know, did that answer the question?
Yes, through the foundation. Yeah, that.
Yes, it's through our foundation, so we're just very, very blessed. Yes.
And I would, because I mean, when you hear that, I know you go, "Oh, I wish we had that pot of money." And you
Yeah,
may,
we
if your
have a
institution.
donor as well, Sarah,
Right. Yeah,
so
but
that's how, yeah.
here's one thing I want to add on to Meg's. I would encourage everybody to sing their song, to sing their praises, to make sure their community understands the good work that you're doing. Because I'm always amazed, even my own community, and I think I'm doing a good job, and then I reach out to somebody else and they have no idea what we're doing. So we need to every single day make sure we're sharing, whether that's through social media, through our just conversations. I don't know if we need to wear t-shirts every day that say what work we're doing. I'm saying that a little bit tongue in cheek, but I think I do believe if more people understood the value of what each of you is doing, it's something you can easily support and get behind. So I encourage you to do that as well. At this point, so I want to mention, Meg talked before about the Career Navigator Pathway. If you want more information, I'll be glad to share that with you, but it is a professional pathway, kind of like the educational pathway. It's a sister pathway to that. So there's tons of resources, tons of training. If you're new and you would like a mentor like Meg was talking about, let us know. We can help you with that. So any of those types of things, we are here to serve you. Let me look and see if there's any more questions. So a couple people have mentioned they can tell who's who. So yes, we've become familiar with both of our presenters. Okay, and somebody says, does the caregiver certificate count as an industry credential for ICCB? And I believe the answer to that is yes.
I'm sorry, could you repeat it? You kind of went out there, Sarah.
I'm sorry. Okay, so
That's
the
okay.
question is, does the caregiver certificate count as an industry credential for ICCB?
I believe it does,
Yeah,
but
it's an
you would
approved.
be the better
Yeah,
person to answer
it's an
that.
approved. It's an approved program. It's a particular. Yes. So.
Yes,
Yeah.
and actually our caregivers, they do even extra. I believe it's 12 hours that's required and they do 16 hours. So, and we're really fortunate. A ton of our caregivers have gotten jobs right after receiving their certificates. So it's exciting for us. It's going really well.
It is exciting, and as a person who every day is moving closer and closer to needing a caregiver, and I don't say that tongue in cheek, we all might be there someday. So I appreciate the fact that you're training individuals. And so then the one follow-up question to that, Meg, it says, is it online? Is that program online, and what program do you use? You use
No, 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 no. It is
college,
not
right? Yeah.
online. No, it's 2 Saturdays, and the students are actually taught by a certified nurse. She's wonderful, and it's 8 hours a day. And actually, in the spring, we're going to add a third Saturday, and that will be CPR. So it'll be, yeah, it's very exciting. We have 10 signed up, I think, right now, and a bunch more on a waiting list. So it's going well.
All right, very good. So at this point, it's 11 o'clock, and I don't see any other questions. So I just want to thank again both of our fine presenters today. Thank you so much for sharing what you're doing at your programs, and we just encourage you in your work, and we encourage everybody else out there in their work as well.
I just would like to say thanks to everyone for their time, and Teresa, you did a great job too.
Thank you, Meg. You did as well.
All right, everybody have a great day. See you at the
You
next
too.